didn't do well, or yes, some games, no.
Some games we will watch film.
You ever burn tape without showing it to them?
Yeah, oh yeah, we never. There's times we don't show them anything. Also, guys also come in individually and watch film after every game with the position coach, sometimes with me as well. And we'll watch 3 or 4 or 5 clips, good, bad, things we need to work on, or something that we really feel is important in preparation for the next game, or something that we emphasized in the 2 or 3 practices prior to it that we succeeded in taking a step or didn't do as good a job as we needed to.
When you take the tape from last night, look at the teaching points. What are the top couple of teaching points that you say, hey, look, this is not the way we want to do it?
Well, mostly most of the clips regarding last night will be on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. Just impatience, not reading the defense correctly, trying to force the action a little bit, and it's obviously going to not only be important for Thursday night, but for the games to come. It's going to be very important. You're going to have a hard time winning games with 22 turnovers. We scored 60-some points. You have 22 empty possessions.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so on those possessions that we didn't turn the ball over, our efficiency was pretty good, even with some questionable shots. So it's just something that we need to learn from and get better at.
When you're trying to cut turnovers, you talk about rushing, and last night you talked about knowing situations and reading defenses and so forth. Glenn made a comment after the game that struck me as a little odd. He said their pressure early sped us up.
Right.
And I don't know if it was the pressure that sped you up, but it did look like everything was, Mufon in particular was going 1,000 miles an hour early.
Right.
Other than telling guys to slow down and process your surroundings more, what can you do to cut back on turnovers? Do you ever eliminate portions of the offense, for example, and say, we turn the ball over a lot when we try to do this, so let's not do it until we get better at it?
No, that's hard to do because it's not like in football, okay, we've thrown 3 interceptions on this particular play.
Right.
We ain't running this play anymore.
Great analogy. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's hard to do in basketball. What he's say, you're not going to, when the guy's open, you're not going to, pass it to him. You just got to throw a better pass.
Right.
And we do try to, but in the same, along the same lines, I said guys have to understand where their strengths are, and so, if a play is called or an opportunity comes up and it's not something that they're good at, then they need to hold back. Here's one thing that we tell our guys: if you have a 50-50 shot, shoot it. If it's a 50-50 pass, don't throw it. And that's, it's a fine line. To be good offensively, you need to, baseball analogy, you need to hit singles and doubles. Yesterday we went for triples and homers every possession, and you can't do that. And sometimes when you're maybe struggling a little bit, you want to get the home run.
Sure.
You can't do things like that. That's when you need to, as Glenn said, you can't get sped up. We have to be dictating what we're doing offensively, and the good way to slow down is to reverse the ball, get the ball moving from side to side, break the defense down, let the defense make a mistake instead of always having to make an offensive play. And then the second way is to get the ball in the post. Now, once you get the ball in the post, now you got to have the correct actions off that. And yesterday, our cuts off the post were very poor. They weren't full speed. They weren't in the correct area. Even then, we either scored in the post or on some kickouts were the only shots we made from the perimeter. So we just have to keep getting better at that.
Mercer plays Georgia tonight. Is that a game you look at to see the matchups and having already played Georgia?
Well, we'll watch that film for sure. It's actually on TV tonight, but we'll watch that probably a couple times, tonight and see if Mercer's doing anything different. We know a lot about Georgia. See what they've tried to do against them and also what works. But other than that, it's just that's just another game for us to use as an evaluation tool and a preparation tool.
Mercer has looks like they have pretty good overall size in the starting lineup. Is that any matchup problems there?
Well, I don't think it's a matchup problem, but they're big, and they do a great job of getting the ball in the post. You know, they lost in overtime to Seton Hall on Sunday. All 5 starters were in double figures. All 5 of their starters and a couple of their subs are all capable scorers. So, you know, it's really important, you know, defensively that we do a good job, and they're very solid on their defensive end. So you can't give them opportunities where they don't have to work on defense, and so that means you got to limit your turnovers.
What do you see from Langston Hall, local kid who runs the offense, leading scorer?
Yeah, he's good. I mean, he's good as a sophomore. This is a good team. Mercer's good. They're a 20-win team, I would think, before it's all said and done. And they're relatively young now. They played a bunch of young guys last year, so they have some experience. But I like Langston Hall. I like the pace that he plays at. He can play fast. He can slow it down. He's got great size. Can really pressure the ball and cause some havoc defensively. You know, it's interesting. You know, guys like that. I mean, he's an ACC player. You know, and they got a couple of them. There's a couple of guys on. You know, they got a few of them. That's why they're going to be good. And as you know, this is a team that's going to win 20 games this year. And then I would think that over the next couple of years, if not this year, they're going to be a team that's going to be playing in NCAA tournaments and probably winning some games in that as well. I think Bob does a great job there. You know, we played them when I was at Dayton. I watched them. You know, their game against Georgia Tech last year. I've always been impressed with how hard they play, their system. And those guys know exactly who they are and what they do well. And sometimes that's the greatest compliment you can give a player.